I think it might have been 38 or 39. Somebody came in and said, "Oh, there's a fire next door." And it was the alterations to the old town hall. They were going to alter it. But instead, because of this fire, which, by the way, there was quite a bit of suspectability or whatever it might be among the staff, that somebody really had lit it so that they'd have to build a new town hall instead of renovating the old one. I remember the original town hall because I was a debutant at the age of 17 in the town hall, the original one. And in those days, you had to have left school before you were allowed to be a deb. It was our introduction to polite society. There's lots of things I can remember about the hall, including singing at various things. But the most important thing from my point of view was that I met my husband there at an ABC orchestral concert.
The ABC concerts were very well supported. People came from, well, the whole Wimmera really to support those concerts. And we had just wonderful artists. But the interesting part, perhaps, is the cost of those programs. And for 5 concerts in 1950, the reserve was £1.15 and 9p. The B reserve was £1.03 and 9p, and that included tax and booking fee. Elizabeth Schwarzkopf, as I say, was a Viennese soprano, beautiful lady, and was accompanied by Margaret Schofield. In the next year, William Warfield came, and he was an American Negro singer and just a wonderful voice, and really enjoyed that one.
As a boy, I came up here to the town hall, and I'd walk up the fire escape stairs, and there was a very convenient ventilator there, and I could have a look down and see the concert that was going on at the time. And being very interested in music myself, I would do this quite frequently if anything interested me. And there was fair cost saving in this. Anyway, my next sister, my older sister, who's 4 years older than me, had a very good friend of hers there who was a young teacher come out, and teachers were sort of treated with fair respect in those days, and I said, would she like to hear this brilliant pianist? And eventually I talked her into it. I said, it won't cost you anything. So we both walked up these fire escape stairs, and I had to lift her up a bit so she could see, and we're just enjoying this pianist, and suddenly I hear footsteps, and it's the caretaker. Now, he would have thought we were up there for some quite different reasons. Anyway, he blasted us and really told us off. Now, I suppose as a schoolboy, that was just a normal part of your life. But she was so mad at me because she felt, me, a teacher, being talked to by a person like that, a caretaker. Anyhow, she never came again.
They at this ball for when the governor was to come, and anyway, they'd be dressed up in these old costumes, and when the costumes arrived from Melbourne, they're really filthy, and the boys said, we can't and they wouldn't expect the girls to wear those. And there was really a strike. They went on strike till they got them dry clean, because they reckon they were absolutely filthy, like if a dog slept on them.
I was working at the Wimmera Base Hospital, and the nurses said, yes, now the balls are starting, and oh yes, Jen, you have to come to the ball. So they got me organised with getting a dress, and I went down and said, my then fiancé paid for it, and because I came out and I had £30 and a suitcase. That's all I had when I arrived in Horsham. I didn't even know that there was such a thing as a belle of the ball. So we were sort of picked, to do a dance, and I felt quite uneasy because it was just all so new. And then I was announced the belle of the ball. I had no idea what to do. And I remember I must have said, I've only been 2 months in this country, and, and my English was limited then, even though I had learned some English at school in the Netherlands. And there I was, the belle of the ball, and, big fuss made of me, and it was just the same, a very nice time of my life.
I'll never forget when we came to the town hall, when I opened the door and saw the crowds of people in this hall and just one small way for us to go. It was just overwhelming, it really was. I was fortunate enough to be one of 4 girls who were chosen to be queens in the Queen competition in 1955. When it came to buying a dress, my dad said to me, you go and find a dress, and the dress you like you buy, don't worry about the price. So I went into Mrs. Finkermeyer's, and she brought this dress out, and as soon as I saw it I thought, oh, that's beautiful. So I was very fortunate to get such a lovely dress, and I've worn it a lot, and it always seemed to... I had a great night when I wore that dress.
Years ago, you'd buy a new gown every year, but we stopped doing that. It became too costly. So this was special, having it made and having it exactly the way I wanted it. So I got my money's worth, I suppose you would say, and enjoy wearing it.
They got more into after 5s and perhaps straighter skirts, The real old ball gowns seem to be going out, which is a pity because they're so pretty. And they feel good too, you feel you're doing something when you're turning in them and that, whereas the others perhaps restrict your steps a bit more if they're a tight skirt. I feel free on the dance floor. I mightn't feel free with whoever's dancing with me, but I still feel I'm pretty free on the dance floor, yeah. I can remember I said to my doctor, a few years ago, I must have been going through a bad stage, and I said, Gillian, I said, I could give away my bowls and my dancing at the moment.
She said, Audrey, give away your bowls if you must give away something, but she said, not your dancing. It's good physically and mentally, and she was quite right. So it's very important. It's my most important night life is dancing.
Well, I can remember making my debut in the town hall here. I think it was probably about the second or the third Methodist Deb Ball in those days. And it's just a grand building for that type of function.
I spent quite a lot of my younger days in Green Park at my grandfather's place. The significance of this was relating to the building of the town hall. That my uncle Wesley, Councillor Wesley Rodder, lived next door, and he was mayor of the Horsham at the time the town hall was being built. So as a high school student, I was privy to a lot of discussions and that went on between Uncle Wes and his parents, most of it, about the problems they were competing with building the town hall, particularly on the financial situation, because you realise at that time in 1938 it was the end of one of the worst depressions we've had in this century. The crops had been very poor through the Wimmera area, the prices were at record lows, businesses were closing in Horsham, and there were a number of unemployed people living on the river on $5 a week. I remember discussions with Uncle Wes that I overheard was that they had a problem with the foundations in Horsham. It was becoming significant that the grey clay, which is the underlay of soil here, had a very adverse result on movement, with the movements of the soil as it dries out. And the extraordinary precautions were taken to ensure that that doesn't happen in this new project. But the council were determined that in view of the fact that Horsham was moving slowly from being a borough to a town and eventually a city, they should build something of real significance that would be there for generations to come and be a proud point of the area.
My father and his brother worked on the construction of the Horsham Town Hall. One of the things my father used to talk about was the building is actually on piles, like here, you know, what they drill down, and I don't recall what sort of drilling machine they had in those days, but the specification was to drill it down to the rock, and they were drilling and drilling, and they dropped a couple of rocks down so that it would crush it. So I'm not quite sure whether it did go down to rock, but yeah, he worked here for the construction, and then when they finished here they went up to the T&G.
I live 8 miles out of Dimboola, going to Warwick Nabil, so I'm 24 miles away from Horsham. And we used to come to the Saturday night dances here. The Saturday night dances were like a regular meeting place. People come not only from Dimboola, I had a mate used from a mile, we'd come down together sometimes. People had come in from Brimplain, people had come in from Rapagnet. So it was quite a draw at the weekend to get together in Horsham, and you met a lot of people. I, naturally enough, from my farming background, was always interested in keeping in touch with other farmer sons. So
there was a lot of, in the country, there was a lot of country dances, and they'd come for miles, you know, and those times when we were young, as long as everybody's head was up in the car, it didn't matter, no seat belts. You didn't have to worry about seat belts, and yeah, it might be 3 families all pack into the car and, you know, well, there's odd families, they never had transport to get the dances.
The bodgies and widgies were just coming in, so you're into stovepipe pants. You had to take your shoes off to get them off. They were shocking. So we went from bell trousers down to stovepipes, and then of course rock and roll started after that.
I used to enjoy my old-time dancing, and I sort of grew out of that. Met Liz, and then we decided we'd start going to rock and roll. I remember when I was 15, 16, coming here going to blue light discos. It's a good gathering spot. You get to a certain age where you don't go to the pubs and you stay home, yet you'll have bands like INXS, which were my era, and you'll go to those shows and you'll catch up with mates that you haven't seen for years.
I love dancing, and you know, I'm at my happiest when I dance. It doesn't matter what sort of dancing it is.
Like dancing, is really fun because it's like you can go home and practice it, and you can really enjoy it.
I think it's really important that you drive, Horsham is halfway between Melbourne and Adelaide, and lots of our visitors are making that drive. They've taken that day to drive from Melbourne to Adelaide. They stop in Horsham, they'll have lunch and they'll visit the gallery. And this is an opportunity for them to stop and to look more closely at this landscape that they are experiencing, but they're experiencing quite quickly and quite briefly. It's a chance to stop, slow down and look, and there's some really interesting things that have been made here. Some of our, the recurring themes and stories keep kind of emerging. There's the Duff Children, which a number of artists have sort of looked at, with 3 lost children in the Australian bush that's sort of represented in the gallery's collection. There's also even really simple things around the mechanics of farming and the lands on the landscape that make, and the way that we actually do directly engage with the soil. And there's multiple artworks and multiple artists have sort of looked at this, even from when Nolan was first stationed in Dimboola, right through to sort of contemporary artists that are living in the Wimmera today, who are kind of still really intrigued by those marks that are made in the landscape through the sort of mechanical agriculture.
I got involved really in the ARCO when I was on council. So I was on council for 18 years, and I was involved with the Mac Yost. I was mayor at the time, and when he put the question to us about having a permanent art gallery, and that's how it started.
Mac Yost, who is the marvellous benefactor of the art gallery, he talked to me one day about extending the gallery, and his idea was to go over the roof of the town hall entrance area, and we thought at the time that was too expensive. We ended up gutting the building, and we spread into every single little pocket that there was in the building meaning the town hall and the gallery. We didn't touch too much of the town hall space, so we took over all those little spaces and we knocked out walls, and we ended up creating about 1/3 more exhibition space than we'd started off with, and we extended the storage area. We raised the standard that the gallery was able to operate at, the professionalism of the gallery, but I think we also raised its the awareness of both the public and, even on a statewide, maybe even national basis, we put the gallery on the map. One thing I really liked, thinking about the town hall now as well as the gallery, that office that I had, it looked into the town hall. And so often I'd be working back late and you'd start to see people coming in through the doors, the foyer of the town hall. They walk past my office and sometimes they'd all be in ballroom gowns, or sometimes they'd be in suits. Sometimes they would be going in for a line dance practice or something like that. There was always something happening. And the arts balls, they were marvellous. They had themes. They were always Big Al. Big Al goes down on the Titanic was one of them.
Back in the 80s, a group of Horsham people started or formed these cabarets that were community fundraisers here in Horsham. Generally, at the end of the cabaret, the members or the community would sit together and perhaps look at what was in need at the time in any one of those years and decide who that might go to. So usually charity groups, of course. And there, everything was bright and colourful and was fun, and it was really relaxed. We found that with that style of cabaret, with fancy dress, people relaxed more and seemed to come out of their shell a bit more and really, really enjoyed it. It was always such a fun time.
We're having a ball, the new openings ball.
I said to one of my work colleagues, Paul Denson, I said, look, it would be fantastic to have a ball, or gives them something to get dressed up for and feel, look, all our other kids, they make their debut, they have presentation nights and graduation nights. Why can't our people have a night to remember? So we started off here in the Horsham Town Hall and had our first ball in 2004, and that eventuated, the Awakenings was running nearly 10 years by then, and in 2005 we had a presentation ball. Unfortunately, they all used to say they've been waiting all year for it and then it's all over in a split second. I think it's the only one big festival for disability that is in the Southern Hemisphere.
We used to, in my teen years, because I was born in Horsham, come to the town hall for great dances and groups coming to Horsham.
Used to play lacrosse with a couple of blokes, and they used to come up to Horsham with the band, bring bands up in the town hall.
And in 1968, I think it was, I was in Melbourne. Mum organised that I go to hairdressing school in Melbourne and came back for Easter.
Come up one time, I met a few people. The next time I came up, stamped the girl's hand at the door.
Came with my girlfriends to the dance. There was a band from Melbourne, so we thought we'd catch up with that in a great place. And as we're coming through the door, this guy stamped my hand.
And later on in the night, didn't take much more notice of it, and her cousin, which was playing in one of the bands, came up to me and said, would you like to come and meet my cousin? I said, oh yeah, why not?
This is Ian from Port Melbourne. And instant eye contact and, would you like a dance? Yeah. So we had a few dances and found out history that I was home on Easter holidays and said we'd catch up when we get back to Melbourne. And we did.
Now we've been married for going on 42 years.
Like in that movie, it was magic. It's just a gorgeous place to still be here.